Good morning. Welcome again. I'm really honored to be able to help as part of the morning kickoff for the conference. As Joe introduced me, I've been here in Japan for quite a while, and I do many different things, as many of you do. I work on curriculum. I've recently, this year, I'm the English coordinator at our university, and so I'm the one who answers questions. There's too many students in my class, or could I change the hours, or all those things. So I'm doing that. I'm on committee meetings, do committees, I do volunteer work. But my identity, the identity that I most associate myself with is that of teacher. And so gives me great pleasure to be here with a room full of teachers. Maybe 100, more than 100 teachers. And so I'm in heaven because I love talking about teaching. But King Solomon said in the Bible, "What has been will be again, what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." So at the risk of having some of you go out and look for more coffee, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you anything new. Sorry, but please don't leave. There are many types of keynote addresses and plenaries. Some share groundbreaking research, others are inspirational. Today, I hope to do one that is sort of participatory. I'm going to talk, but you're going to have a chance to talk as well. Well, that worked. That's great. My title, and as you've read, is about Answerless Riddles, Stories from the Language Learning Classroom. And I started with a quote. It's almost like a poem to me. Some riddles have no final answers. A few answerless riddles are still worth asking. They are worth asking not for their answers, since they have none, but for what we do in struggling with them. And today I want to use that as a jumping off point. How many of you know Earl Stevick? Have you heard of him? The lights I can't see. I see a few hands, but many of you haven't heard, and so I'd like to introduce you to someone who's really a giant in our field of language teaching. He earned a master's at Columbia University, went on and did his PhD at Cornwell, but he's really known for his work with the Foreign Service Institute, where they teach languages to diplomats. And one of the things, and these are some of his books, one of the things he's really known for, and I'm going to quote from a memorial, a blog, oddly enough, a memorial to him. Perhaps his most distinctive contribution was his continued focus on the learner more than the teacher. As a result, unlike many others, he was not wedded to a particular methodology, but rather to how teaching can best support learning. And so I thought this is a great way to start the day and go forward. Let's see. Okay. Isaac Newton is attributed with this saying, although it came from someone before him, but he's the one that a lot of people associated. "If I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." And so I thought, to get started, let's pay tribute to some of those giants. And as I did this, as Joe said, I'm from the US, even though I've been here for a long time. Grew up in North Carolina. But I don't have the North Carolina accent because I was born in Illinois. So I speak what's considered standard English from the Illinois Midwest area. Some of my friends will say, well, not really, you don't quite speak standard English, Steve. But I don't have the Southern accent, but I grew up in North Carolina. And so what I realized, a lot of these giants are giants from a Western perspective. And if each of your countries probably have giants as well that we stand on their shoulders, giants of language teaching. So let's see. Now, we'll play a game. Who is this? Dewey, yes, Dewey is one of the giants. And Joe mentioned I do a lot of work with the New School for Social Research in U.S., in New York. And he was one of the founders, one of the people that left Columbia. A lot of people were at Columbia, which is uptown in Manhattan, and they moved down and started a new school, and he was one of them. So I'm maybe standing on his shoulders. Do you know who this is? I wouldn't if I saw the picture, but this is Charles Frais. He was one of the founders of the University of Michigan Language Institute, and is really considered one of the people that got our field going. His area was contrastive linguistics, but he was concerned with languages in teaching and learning. If you know, shout it out. Yeah, I would have known his picture maybe, but I wouldn't have gotten the name right. Robert Lado, Lado? Yeah, Lado, who also, he studied with Charles Frais at Michigan and went on to be the Dean of the Institute of Languages at Georgetown. Okay. Anyone? Pardon me? I couldn't hear. Ted knows. Ted. Wilga Rivers. Wilga Rivers. That's. She was at Harvard. She was one of the first people to advocate leaving CLT. Audiolingual, and start doing interactive communicative language teaching, which now seems old hat. But when she was doing it, it wasn't. This was way back, probably in the 60s, 70s when she did it. So she's one of our giants. So let's see. Now this maybe we're getting more into, thank you. So, and I didn't, the fact that you don't know these pictures doesn't mean anything really, other than these are some people that we can pay homage to. Yes, Stephen Krashen, who's famous for input hypothesis, I plus 1, the effective filter. Yeah, so we're on some common ground here. So yeah, Stephen Krashen. Let's see. We're going into designer methods now. This is James Asher, who worked with I heard someone TPR, yes. Now, he's a professor emeritus at his school, so I think this is an older photo. I'm not sure, but he looks quite good here. So TPR, yeah, now friends of him are saying, you just got dissed by the speaker at IAFOR. No, he works TPR, which many of us know is really where we use commands to teach language. Go to the door, stand up, sit down, turn around. But it can be even more complex language. Most of us, though, know it at that basic level. Anyone? This is one of my heroes, really one of my heroes. This is Caleb Catania, who, I heard it, Silent Way, who founded the Silent Way, created the Silent Way. I learned Japanese the Silent Way, basically. There's a Silent Way Center in Osaka. And it took a long time. And if you hear my Japanese, you may say, well, no, Steve, you didn't really learn Japanese. But I can use Japanese, and I learned it using what's called the Silent Way, which many of you associate with color charts, different sounds, colors for sounds, and the rods, little wooden blocks that you move around. It's much, much more than that. That's Shakti Catania, which was Caleb Catania's wife. And she has done as much to keep the Silent Way going through a small company called Educational Solutions in New York, as Caleb Catania did. And she's really a lovely woman. She often goes up to the School for International Training in Vermont to do workshops. And so I searched for a photo and I found this. This happens to be the year I did my sabbatical at the school, so I know a lot of the students around her. I wasn't there at this time. I'd already left for the winter, but it was quite interesting. Now, who are some of your giants? Just take a moment, talk to the person next to you. Ready, go. Your heroes, the people you have learned from. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to get the mics to go around, but can you shout out a few names? Who's some of your heroes? Vygotsky? Yep. Other? Michelle Thomas, okay. A lot of these we don't know, but that doesn't really matter because there are heroes. Another? Okay. And a lot of my teachers are my heroes, yeah. For me, Diane Larson Freeman, Paul Nation, J.D. Brown, these are the people that I'm standing on their shoulders. One or two more? Okay. David Crystal, I heard something in the back. Once more? Okay. Okay, so this is where we're coming from. Let's see what I have planned. Now watch, one time. Okay, great, I put it down. So, going back to Earl Stevick. I was a graduate student in 1991, and we had what's called a community meeting. So we brought all the graduate students. We were one of the largest classes then. We were called MAT 23s because we were the 23rd class. Now they're at MAT 45 or so. Maybe, I'm saying that. You can do the math and tell me, no, Steve, you're wrong, it's not 45. But 85 teachers, graduate students, staff gathered into a room with chairs like this, but not as nice, just a smaller but a classroom. And we're there, and Earl Stevick, who's a hero at SIT, he was one of the founding board members, and he did a lot of work with language with the Peace Corps, and so he was there to talk to us. And he asked a question. He asked the teachers, do your students know the Oakley Maxim? The Oakley Maxim. And no one knows the answer, except me. I was the only one that knew the answer. Teachers didn't know it. And this, Diane Larson Freeman, Donald Freeman, Kathleen Graves, these are some pretty big names. Ray Clark, these are some really great teacher trainers, but they didn't know the answer. But I knew the answer, but I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it. I was a little shy. Okay, there is a lag, a little longer than I thought. Okay, the Oakley Maxim. Anyone have an idea what the Oakley Maxim is? And is willing to share it, say it to the conference co-chair? What he was talking about, the Oakley Maxim is...
Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Okay, Oakley Maxim. So the Oakley Maxim is anything you can do, I can do better. Now, I don't know why at that point in time I knew that. Maybe because we had been teaching modals, and it's a great song, anything you can do, I can do better. It's a great thing to introduce that. But also I have a theater background, so maybe that's why it was, and just maybe there's something wrong up here, but I knew it. But I could not bring myself to say that to this great person, this great teacher, anything you can do, I can do better. So anyway, but And now, I'm not sure what his point was when he told us that. I think it was like, really as teachers, we may be good at something, but there's always someone that maybe is a little better. But I'm not really sure what his point was. I just have this image of the song and this. So, but one of our themes is individual. And so that sort of captures one aspect of the individual. And so I can go many places with this, the individual. One is, as teachers, as individuals, sometimes we're faced with isolation. Individual sometimes equals isolation, and a lot of times, there was I think a sociologist, Dan Lorty, 1975, wrote a book, School Teacher, and he talks about teaching as the egg carton profession, that we go into our classrooms, just like eggs go into the carton, and we don't talk with other teachers. We teach, maybe we go to our office, we prep, and there's not a lot of interaction with teachers. And so you can see the blurry guy in the back, and the woman who I think's grading papers. Any writing teachers? Writing teachers, yeah. So we have, in fact, my writing class started about half an hour ago. So they have the day off today. So they're very happy, but we have to make it up. But as writing teachers, we have papers to grade. And so one aspect of the individual is isolation, that we're isolated. But that's not something I want to focus on. I want to look at something else. Some classrooms are not fun. They're places that people do not want to go to. And one summer, I took a intensive Japanese class in Middlebury College in Vermont, and we were able to study rakugo, which is sort of an art form where one person does two characters, and there's a rakugo related to this, related to school. And if you bear with me, I'll try to do it for us in English. That's me doing rakugo during the summer. The music, there's a special type of music, and you have your fan, folding fan, and a hanky. But this one is, a mother wakes up her son, and so it's like, wake up, Johnny, wake up, it's time to go to school. Mom, I don't want to go to school. Wake up, Johnny, it's time to go to school. No, I hate school, I don't want to go to school. Wake up, why don't you want to go to school? I'm not going. The teachers hate me, the students hate me, I'm not going. Johnny, you have to go to school. Why do I have to go to school? Johnny, you're the headmaster. You're the principal. Boom, boom. Sorry, they say you're supposed to use humor in a speech. Some people may say, try again, Steve. Okay, but it's a story that, fortunately, as I mentioned, I'm the English coordinator at my school, and so I can relate to that, but knock on Formica. So far, my teachers and students are okay with me. But we've only finished the first week of class here, so, okay. But individual makes me think about me. What am I doing? What am I interested in? What am I trying? So let me ask you another question. Is your work recognized? Do you get the positive feedback that you need, that you'd like? Often we don't, and so I thought we'd take this morning to try to rectify that. Something called give yourself a pat on the back. Now, my wife would say niteru. My wife's Japanese. She'd say niteru, which means it looks like you. But I don't think, oh, she must have gotten into my slides. Sorry about that. But anyway, let's move on. Okay. Whew. Okay. So give yourselves a pat on the back. It comes from the work of a Roger von Oech. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name properly, but von Oech. And he's written some inspirational creativity books called A Whack on the Side of the Head. And he followed that up with a book, A Kick in the Seat of the Pants. These are books to try to jar our thinking. And so one of his things is give yourself a pat on the back. What have you done well lately? Where have you made progress? What good things have you accomplished? What obstacles have you overcome? Congratulations. Go out and earn another pat on the back. So let's take a moment and tell the person next to you, what have you done lately that's done well, or what have you accomplished? Give yourself a pat on the back by sharing something you've done successfully with the person next to you. Ready, go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm running behind a little. I was going to ask for some comments, but instead I think I'm going to push on. Some of the things I did hear, though, some people, they made it here to the conference, which all of you, that's a big pat on the back. Others have finished thesis or their studies. Others just going through the visa process to make it here. Someone, their school has finished a review and was allowed to continue, so that's a major milestone. So anyway, there's a lot of things that we can give ourselves a pat on the back. So I'd like to get, because we're going to spend the next 3 days together, I'd like to find out who we are. Who are we? And so I'm going to ask some questions. How many people are graduate students? Okay. I spent many, many years as a graduate student. I love graduate school study. So my mom, I was in a different field. I was in theater, and I got a basic theater degree, and then I got an arts administration degree. And then I started studying. I made a career change and got into English language teaching. And my mom said, well, can't you put those masters in and get a PhD, just exchange them in? I said, no, Mom, it doesn't quite work that way. But anyway, how many consider yourself researchers? Okay. And English teachers, IT people or tech people. You can raise your hand many, many times. Material writers, material developers, writers, okay. Curriculum designers, yep. Do you consider yourself a junior faculty member? Okay. Or senior faculty? Okay. Administration? Yep. Anyone who just wandered off the street and is waiting for the next coffee? No. Yeah, okay. So, well, please stay, don't leave. Now, this you can self-identify, but who's from Asia? However you define that, yeah, Asia. Okay. Now, this may overlap. Australia and New Zealand, don't fight. I know sometimes we don't, but anyway, okay. I hope this is not politically incorrect, but from the subcontinent, India or that area, okay, see you there. Middle East, okay. Let's see. Africa, right. South Africa, I know there was a great, one of the giants I didn't mention, Pippa Stein was someone who was really influential in South African education. So, North America. South America, was there anyone South America? Yes, okay, great. Where are you from? Wonderful. Europe. Okay, Europe. And the UK, sometimes don't fight, but Europe, UK. Depends who you are and how you define that. Now, is there anyone here who finds it hard to say where you're from? For example, I'm from the US, but I've lived in Japan for almost 20 years. Anyone has trouble really answering that question? Okay, there's some people that have some interesting stories, I'm sure. Now, oh, I forgot a point. Okay, going back a little. How many people teach classes about 30 in the class? Yeah. How many people think a class of 30 is very, very large? How many people think a class of 30 is very, very small? Yes. This I want you to see because a lot of times we don't understand this. How many people teach classes of 80? 100? 120? Okay. Yeah. How many people teach classes for 90 minutes? 90 minutes in Japan, that's a standard time. 60 minutes? 40 minutes. Yeah. How many people teach over 100 students and have like 40 minutes to teach? In Bangladesh, that's quite common. And so I think our context, we assume we're teachers, we do the same thing. I just wanted us to see some of that. And now, this I hope works, I'm not sure. Could everyone just stand up? Everyone stand up, please. How many people have only been teaching for 1 to 5 years? Sit down. 1 to 5 years, please sit down. Only 1 to 5 years, okay? Only 5 to 10 years, please sit down. You know the next one, only 10 to 15 years. Sit down, please, okay? Only 15 to 20 years, sit down. Okay, only 20 to 25 years. Only 25 to 30, sit down. Over 30 years, wow. Joe, these are the people you need to come next year and speak. Wow, okay, great. Okay, time is marching on. I teach a course online and also face-to-face on curriculum design. And one of the main things we look at is, well, we look at many things. We look at context, beliefs, conceptual frameworks, needs assessment, goals and objectives, scope and sequence, planning a lesson, and assessing the course. But one of the main things we do is looking at teaching beliefs. And we use this circle. This is a circle that I believe David Hawkins came up with, but maybe it's attributed to other people. But at my graduate school, they use this a lot, I, thou, it. And so I is teachers and teaching, thou is students, learners and learning, it is the subject matter, and there's a context. Someone added context, which is very important. And so I thought we might do one more thing. It looks like we may not have time for questions, but I'll be around, and we've been talking, so maybe that's okay. But in the time remaining, do you ever have disagreements at your school about teaching policy or what students should do? These are sort of rhetorical. I think the answer is yes for many of us. And do the disagreements sometimes get loud or uncomfortable? And I suspect, I think the answer is yes for many of us. And I think if we peel the layers back, what we'll find out is a lot of the roots of the disagreements are connected to teaching beliefs. I believe that most teachers, the majority of teachers, they want what's good for the students. And so when they argue strongly for one policy or another, it's because of their teaching beliefs. It's because what they believe is good for students is what they're arguing for. And so the disagreements, the conflict, is because there's a conflict in beliefs of what's good. One example that we had at our school quite a few years ago was about study abroad. What should the TOEIC or TOEFL score be to go study abroad? One teacher felt They had to have a good TOEIC before they went abroad, TOEFL at that time. They had to have a good TOEFL before they went abroad. Otherwise, it was not worth it. Many of us felt, no, let them go abroad, even at low language proficiency. They'll get motivated. They'll enjoy learning the language. There'll be benefit. And so we had long meetings about whether to set a proficiency level to go abroad. And so this was about beliefs about teaching, I believe. I'm teaching that curriculum course, and some of my MA students have rather strong beliefs, like no school should let students negotiate the syllabus, that the stakeholders will not allow that, or doing role plays is just wasting time. Now, a lot of the MA students have a narrow experience. They just don't know all the situations that are out there. I find you can, depending on the context, there's a lot of different decisions to be made. Let's see what the next slide. In my abstract, it's faster. I had asked these questions. What's the best way to teach? How can students learn more efficiently? And I changed the last question from what was in the handbook to what's the best way to fit technology into language learning? Because these are hard to answer because of best and more efficient. So let's see. Some of our topics, these are some of the topics, looking through the program, that we're going to be dealing with today. A lot of different topics. And I've talked with a lot of you about some of these. Did animation make it up there? No. Okay. Digital storytelling. Oh, yes, animation did make it up. So there's presentations on all of these topics. And I'd like us to take the last 5 minutes. We're talking about answerless riddles. A lingering question I still have after teaching for 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, over 30 years. A lingering question I have is, that's one thing you could talk about. Or, just as we close, what I'm interested in taking away from these conferences on language learning and conferences on technology in the classroom. So once more, last chance to talk in this session. Ready, go. So what are your answers to these or anything?
We were talking about, like, we're both from the same university.
Okay.
So we talk all the time. But, like, taking away things that are practical, things we can go into the classroom with on whenever it is we get back. And,
sure.
Do this. This is a cool new idea. We're both interested in mobile learning.
There's a lot of sessions on that had mobile in the name, so that's great, yeah. Where are you, what university?
We're both at Zayed University.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I was going to wander around more, but then I realized I promised I would try to end the session on time, and the clock is in the red now. 1 minute. Yeah, our time's up. So, I hope this has gotten us a jump start on the conference, and I'm just really excited by being in the room with all of you and by what we're going to experience in the next 2.5 days now. But one of the biggest experiences will be shortly taiko drumming. Get your cameras ready. It's a very, very great Japanese experience. Anyway, thank you very much. I think I'll turn it back over to Kyoshi.
Thank you, Professor Cornwell.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a lot more over the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Steve Cornwell, everyone.